but I can hear her whispering.
Are you Riddick?
But if you want to survive,
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Riddick, Furya offers a remarkable canvas to explore the interplay between environment, narrative, and character psychology. Each location on Furya is likely to be more than mere backdrop, it is a participant in the story, shaping Riddick's decisions and reflecting the culture of its inhabitants. Environmental hazards, for instance, may range from extreme weather conditions, such as acid storms, sand hurricanes, or blistering heat, to aggressive native fauna, each with unique adaptations designed to survive in harsh ecosystems. These hazards provide both physical challenges and narrative opportunities, forcing Riddick to utilize his instincts, intelligence, and knowledge of predator-prey dynamics to navigate the planet. Scenes depicting Riddick stalking prey or evading threats are expected to be meticulously choreographed, blending suspense, strategy, and spectacle, demonstrating how survival skills honed across the galaxy are now tested in a familiar yet alien home environment. The predicted Furyan rituals could serve as crucial narrative devices, illustrating cultural continuity despite centuries of diaspora and near extinction. These rituals may include ceremonial combat, rites of passage, and spiritual observances that reinforce group cohesion, honor, and the memory of ancestors lost during the Necromonger invasion. Such ceremonies could involve symbolic gestures, specific combat forms, or vocal chants resonating with the planet's environment, creating both dramatic tension and cultural immersion. Riddick's participation, or resistance, to these rituals may highlight his internal conflict, reconciling his solitary, pragmatic identity with inherited cultural expectations. This interplay could generate emotionally charged scenes, allowing audiences to witness the tension between personal autonomy and communal responsibility. Antagonist psychology in Furya is likely to be multifaceted. External threats may combine strategic cunning, brutality, and ideological conviction. They could be motivated by revenge, conquest, or a desire to suppress the Furyans permanently, echoing the genocidal intent of prior Necromonger campaigns. Internally, Riddick may confront rival Furyan factions with competing visions for survival, some advocating secrecy, others embracing militarized retaliation or assimilation into interstellar societies. The complexity of these psychological dynamics creates opportunities for suspense, moral ambiguity, and dramatic tension. By presenting adversaries with nuanced motivations rather than one-dimensional villainy, the film can explore themes of ethics, leadership, and survival in ways that resonate with real-world dilemmas of culture, power, and justice. Interstellar politics remain a vital backdrop for Riddick, Furya. Previous films established a universe populated by empires, mercenaries, and lawless frontier societies. The return to Furya may reveal how these powers respond to a Furyan resurgence. Will distant factions seek to exploit Riddick's abilities or the survival of his people? Might former Necromonger allies or remnants attempt to eliminate any potential threat posed by the Furyans? The film could juxtapose Riddick's personal journey with larger geopolitical tensions, emphasizing how individual identity and cultural survival intersect with systemic power struggles. These interstellar stakes expand the narrative, transforming Furya into a story that is simultaneously intimate, mythic, and cosmic. Thematic motifs are expected to be carefully woven throughout the film. Recurrent imagery, such as eyes, shadow, predation, fire, and ruins, may symbolize perception, awareness, mortality, and the endurance of culture. These motifs can appear in multiple contexts: combat, exploration, or ritual, providing continuity and thematic resonance. Additionally, light and darkness could continue to serve metaphorical purposes, revealing knowledge, highlighting moral choices, and representing hope or danger. By embedding symbolism in both visual and narrative elements, the film encourages audiences to engage critically while maintaining immersive spectacle. Connections to the broader Riddick franchise are significant. Timeline continuity allows Furya to reference events from Pitch Black, The Chronicles of Riddick, and Riddick, 2013, integrating character development, lore, and unresolved plot threads. Historical references, such as the Necromonger invasion, the prophecy surrounding Furyans, and prior battles in which Riddick survived against overwhelming odds, reinforce narrative coherence and provide rich material for fan analysis. The inclusion of these references ensures that Furya is not a standalone narrative but a culmination of decades-long storytelling, bridging the gaps between the original survivalist narrative and the mythic exploration of heritage and identity. Scene-specific speculation suggests sequences designed to maximize both emotional impact and cinematic spectacle. For example, Riddick navigating treacherous mountain passes to reach a ceremonial gathering may combine suspense, breathtaking visuals, and thematic foreshadowing. A confrontation with adversarial Furyans could blend personal conflict, combat choreography, and narrative revelation, deepening character arcs while advancing the plot. Climactic battles may integrate environmental hazards, tribal tactics, and high-stakes strategy, reflecting Riddick's adaptation to both cultural expectations and physical dangers. Each scene is likely to serve multiple purposes: entertaining action, character development, thematic reinforcement, and world building. The predicted final act may merge personal resolution with broader societal consequences. Riddick could face a choice between personal vengeance, leadership responsibilities, or safeguarding the future of his people. Climactic confrontations may test his mastery of environment, combat skill, and moral judgment. The resolution could involve the unification of Furyan factions, survival against a superior external force, or the establishment of a new cultural order. Such an ending would provide both narrative closure and thematic resonance, emphasizing continuity, survival, and the enduring spirit of a people nearly erased from history. In terms of cinematography, the film may employ a dynamic combination of practical and digital effects to create a living, breathing Furya. Real landscapes enhanced with CGI could provide alien textures and fauna, while practical effects, props, set design, costumes, ensure tactile realism. Camera movement might shift fluidly between intimate handheld shots during character-driven moments and sweeping aerial vistas that underscore the planet's grandeur. Lighting, color grading, and visual effects may highlight narrative motifs, from shadowed valleys symbolizing danger to luminous ceremonial fires indicating cultural continuity and hope. Riddick, Furya also has the potential to influence the future trajectory of the franchise. By establishing a fully realized homeworld, the film creates opportunities for prequels, spin-offs, and serialized narratives exploring Furyan history, interstellar politics, and ancillary characters. The exploration of cultural heritage, moral complexity, and existential threats may redefine audience expectations, demonstrating that action-oriented sci-fi can simultaneously deliver thematic depth and visual spectacle. The film's success could cement Riddick as a mythic figure, bridging human relatability and superhuman mythology, and inspire further explorations of exile, survival, and identity in science fiction cinema. Ultimately, Riddick, Furya represents a rare convergence of decades of world-building, complex character development, and cinematic ambition. The film has the opportunity to resolve long-standing narrative threads, explore profound themes of heritage, identity, and survival, and expand the mythos of a franchise that has captivated audiences for over 20 years. Through meticulous attention to environment, culture, psychology, interstellar dynamics, and thematic resonance, Furya promises to be a milestone in science fiction storytelling, one that blends high-stakes action with introspective exploration, visual grandeur with cultural depth, and the enduring saga of a character whose journey continues to resonate across generations. The ecology of Furya is as brutal as it is complex, reflecting the harsh realities that forged the Furyan people and the survivalist instincts of Riddick himself. Apex predators dominate the planet's food chain, each species exhibiting unique adaptations that challenge both Riddick's physical prowess and strategic intelligence. For instance, some predators possess heightened nocturnal vision, directly competing with Riddick's own night-sight ability and forcing him to innovate in combat and evasion. Others rely on sophisticated camouflage or mimicry, blending seamlessly with the environment to ambush prey, which demands Riddick's acute situational awareness and adaptive tactics. These creatures are not merely obstacles, they function as narrative devices, symbolizing the constant threat of mortality and the necessity of cunning, patience, and decisiveness in a universe governed by survival imperatives. Secondary species in Furya's ecosystem, scavengers, pack hunters, and symbiotic organisms, create additional layers of environmental tension. Their presence shapes Riddick's decision-making. A hasty move may trigger a predatory chain reaction, while strategic use of terrain or environmental hazards can turn threats into advantages. For example, the protagonist might use a pack of smaller predators to distract or ambush a larger foe, demonstrating his capacity for tactical ingenuity. The ecological design extends beyond individual encounters, emphasizing interconnectedness. The balance between predator, prey, and environment mirrors Riddick's moral and strategic dilemmas, reinforcing the franchise's hallmark interplay between survival mechanics and philosophical undertones. Riddick's combat strategies in Furya reflect both evolution and continuity. Drawing on Furyan training, he combines brute strength, reflexive agility, and precision tactical thinking. Hand-to-hand combat integrates martial techniques adapted to the environment, often leveraging terrain, gravity, or environmental hazards to neutralize multiple adversaries. Weaponry is similarly versatile. Melee tools crafted from local materials coexist with remnants of advanced technology recovered from Furyan ruins, allowing Riddick to blend improvisation with skill. His signature night vision ability, enhanced through narrative developments in Furya, enables him to anticipate threats and execute preemptive maneuvers in darkness, a critical advantage in a world dominated by predators and human adversaries alike. Beyond physical combat, Riddick's survival strategies incorporate intelligence gathering, psychological manipulation, and environmental mastery. He reads behavior, predicts movements, and adapts to evolving threats, whether from rival factions, mercenaries, or creatures. This multidimensional approach emphasizes that survival in Furya is not merely about strength but about perception, planning, and the capacity to exploit opportunity. Every encounter, human or alien, is a test of both instinct and intellect, reinforcing the franchise's unique blending of action with cerebral engagement. Fan theories provide an additional lens for understanding Furya's narrative potential and possible sequels. One prominent speculation involves the remaining Furyans. Scattered survivors may possess abilities rivaling or even exceeding Riddick's, creating opportunities for new alliances, rivalries, or philosophical conflicts. Some theories suggest that Furya may harbor hidden artifacts or technologies from pre-Necromonger times, capable of reshaping the balance of power in the galaxy. Another theory concerns interstellar political implications. As Riddick reclaims or discovers elements of Furyan heritage, neighboring civilizations or mercenary groups may perceive him as both a threat and a strategic asset, setting the stage for larger-scale conflicts that could extend beyond the planet itself. These speculations underscore the franchise's capacity for expansive storytelling, combining personal narrative, planetary intrigue, and cosmic stakes. Ecologically, Furya's environment reflects broader philosophical themes. The harsh terrain, scarcity of resources, and constant presence of predators mirror the existential realities of Riddick's journey. Life is contingent, perilous, and shaped by adaptation. Survival requires not only physical skill but ethical and strategic decision-making, echoing the franchise's long-standing focus on the moral ambiguities of power and resilience. The planet's layered ecosystems, from desert plains to subterranean tunnels, serve as both narrative metaphor and practical challenge, ensuring that every encounter carries thematic weight. Societal reconstruction on Furya continues to provide narrative richness. The surviving Furyan communities may have developed divergent cultural practices, including ritual combat, spiritual observances, and resource allocation methods, reflecting both historical memory and adaptive innovation. Riddick's interactions with these groups highlight questions of leadership, autonomy, and moral responsibility. By negotiating alliances, resolving conflicts, and confronting internal rivalries, he explores the tension between individual freedom and collective destiny, a recurring motif in the franchise. These dynamics expand the narrative scope, offering commentary on governance, ethical choice, and the interplay of tradition and adaptation in extreme circumstances. From a production perspective, the film leverages this ecological and societal complexity through meticulous set design, costuming, and practical effects. Locations were carefully chosen for their natural harshness, creating authentic landscapes that reinforce the stakes of survival. Practical creature effects, animatronics, and prosthetics blend seamlessly with CGI enhancements, producing creatures that are both believable and terrifying. Costume design reflects functionality, cultural identity, and environmental adaptation, incorporating signs of wear, combat damage, and historical significance. These production choices contribute to an immersive experience, allowing the audience to perceive Furya as a living, breathing world rather than a mere backdrop for action sequences. Combat and survival sequences are choreographed with attention to both spectacle and narrative function. Riddick's confrontations are not merely visually impressive, they reveal character, strategy, and adaptation. Each battle or chase integrates environmental factors, terrain, fauna, and weather, to reinforce realism and thematic resonance. The cinematography complements this approach, using dynamic tracking shots, low-angle perspectives, and intimate close-ups to convey both scale and personal stakes. Sound design, including creature audio, weapon effects, and environmental ambience, enhances immersion and emphasizes the visceral reality of Furya's challenges. Looking forward, Furya sets the stage for multiple sequel possibilities. Riddick may assume a more active role in guiding the Furyans, balancing leadership with autonomy and confronting moral and strategic dilemmas on a planetary scale. Expanded interstellar conflict is plausible, as rival factions, opportunistic mercenaries, and remnants of the Necromonger Empire intersect with Furyan resurgence. These trajectories could explore themes of legacy, power, survival, and morality across both personal and cosmic dimensions, ensuring that the franchise retains its unique blend of action, philosophy, and world-building. In summary, Riddick, Furya combines ecological complexity, societal reconstruction, and psychologically driven narrative to deepen the franchise's mythos. Its creatures, environments, combat sequences, and philosophical undertones create a richly textured cinematic experience. By integrating survival strategy, moral ambiguity, and potential interstellar consequences, the film positions itself as both a continuation of Riddick's journey and a launchpad for future narrative exploration. Its meticulous attention to world building, character development, and production design ensures that audiences are engaged on multiple levels, from visceral thrill to intellectual contemplation, while the unresolved mysteries and speculative sequel potential keep the franchise's narrative possibilities open-ended and compelling. As Riddick, Furya moves toward its narrative and thematic culmination, the concept of prophecy and destiny emerges as a central pillar of the story. Unlike traditional narratives where destiny is either fully deterministic or purely symbolic, Furya situates prophecy as a complex force that interacts dynamically with choice, circumstance, and moral agency. Riddick has always existed within the shadow of prophecy. Earlier films hinted that a Furyan male, his very existence, would have profound implications for the Necromonger Empire and the galactic balance. In Furya, this prophetic thread is expanded, suggesting that the fulfillment, or subversion, of such predictions is contingent not only on external action but on psychological and ethical deliberation. Riddick, a character defined by independence, survival instinct, and anti-heroic pragmatism, is now confronted with a narrative expectation that challenges his autonomy. The tension between what is foretold and what he chooses to enact creates an enduring narrative friction that elevates Furya beyond conventional science fiction action storytelling, imbuing it with philosophical resonance and moral weight. The antagonists in Furya are portrayed as multidimensional, moving beyond the archetypal villains of previous entries. While the Necromongers were historically a monolithic and ideological threat, the emergent forces in Furya appear more fragmented and adaptive. They may represent competing factions, ideological remnants, or opportunistic forces seeking to exploit Furya's vulnerability. By structuring antagonism in this manner, the film emphasizes strategic thinking, moral judgment, and negotiation over brute strength alone. Each confrontation, whether physical, psychological, or political, functions as a crucible, forcing Riddick to apply his intelligence, reflexes, and ethical reasoning in concert. These layered conflicts reinforce the film's thematic exploration of survival as both a personal and societal endeavor, where every decision carries implications for life, culture, and legacy. Furya's exploration of prophecy also intersects with the culture and history of the Furyans. The surviving population interprets Riddick's presence through the lens of myth, memory, and moral expectation, projecting onto him both hope and apprehension. These cultural narratives serve as a lens for examining the tension between individual action and collective narrative. In this sense, prophecy in Furya is not an external force imposed upon the protagonist, it is a shared construct, generated by the intersection of memory, expectation, and cultural continuity. Riddick's navigation of this landscape, therefore, becomes as much about understanding human and cultural psychology as about overcoming environmental or combative threats. The interplay between these forces provides narrative richness, offering audiences a story that is simultaneously epic in scale and intimate in character study. Fan culture and audience engagement occupy a unique position within the film's narrative ecosystem. The Riddick franchise has cultivated a devoted following over 2 decades, with fans generating theories, artwork, and extensive discussions about the character's origins, fate, and the lore of his universe. Furya appears conscious of this engagement, crafting narrative elements that reward long-term investment while leaving room for discovery. By resolving some long-standing questions, such as the survival of Furyans, the fulfillment of prophecy, and Riddick's personal evolution, while introducing new challenges and mysteries, the film positions itself as both an homage to and an expansion of the franchise. This dual approach exemplifies a sophisticated understanding of fan culture, balancing narrative closure with the potential for ongoing exploration in sequels, spin-offs, or transmedia storytelling. Transmedia possibilities are particularly compelling in the context of Furya. The franchise's universe, rich with alien cultures, technologies, and mythologies, lends itself naturally to exploration beyond the cinematic medium. Potential expansions could include novels, graphic novels, interactive media, or serialized digital content, each exploring aspects of Furyan history, cultural practice, or post-film events. By embedding narrative threads that extend beyond the immediate story, Furya cultivates an ecosystem in which audiences can engage across multiple platforms, deepening their understanding of Riddick, the Furyans, and the broader universe. This strategy enhances both narrative depth and audience investment, demonstrating the franchise's adaptability to contemporary modes of storytelling. Thematically, Furya synthesizes the major motifs of the franchise: survival, resilience, identity, morality, and leadership, while introducing new layers of cultural, philosophical, and psychological complexity. Survival, the foundational motif since Pitch Black, is now framed within societal and ethical dimensions. It is not merely about staying alive but about sustaining a culture, preserving knowledge, and navigating moral dilemmas. Resilience is explored both at the individual level, through Riddick's resourcefulness and adaptability, and at the societal level, through the collective endurance of the Furyans. Identity, previously centered on Riddick's anti-heroic self-conception, is now expanded to include cultural and ancestral dimensions, emphasizing the interplay between personal and collective identity. Moral and ethical responsibility are foregrounded as Riddick negotiates leadership and mediates conflicts, demonstrating that heroism encompasses strategy, empathy, and foresight, not only physical prowess. The culmination of the film likely synthesizes these themes in both narrative and visual spectacle. Climactic sequences are anticipated to integrate environmental, social, and moral stakes, resulting in resolutions that are satisfying not only in terms of action but also in character and thematic development. For instance, Riddick's confrontation with antagonistic forces may involve both physical combat and strategic maneuvering, while simultaneous resolutions among Furyan factions may underscore themes of cooperation, reconciliation, and cultural restoration. The convergence of these threads ensures that the climax functions on multiple levels, as visceral entertainment, as character culmination, and as philosophical exploration. From a cinematic perspective, Furya employs advanced visual effects, practical sets, and immersive design to create a world that is both believable and mythic. Environmental hazards, architectural remnants, and alien lifeforms are rendered with attention to both aesthetic and narrative coherence, enhancing the audience's sense of immersion. Creature design balances biological plausibility with imaginative exaggeration, producing beings that challenge Riddick and his allies while enriching the visual storytelling. Lighting, Color grading and cinematography are strategically employed to underscore thematic contrast, isolation versus community, peril versus hope, memory versus action. These choices ensure that every visual element contributes to the narrative, reinforcing emotional, thematic, and psychological engagement. Finally, Furya positions itself as a story of legacy and possibility. Riddick's actions influence not only his immediate survival but the cultural trajectory of the Furians, the interpretation of prophecy, and a broader galactic balance. By integrating resolution with openness, the film allows for narrative continuity beyond its immediate plot, suggesting future installments, expanded universe explorations, and enduring engagement with its mythos. It respects the franchise's heritage while charting new narrative and thematic directions, reinforcing Riddick's place not merely as an action hero but as a figure whose journey illuminates broader questions of identity, culture, and survival. Riddick, Furya's structure is likely to be divided into multiple narrative acts, each designed to deepen character development, advance plot complexity, and enrich thematic exploration. The first act may focus on Riddick's arrival on Furya, a stage of both discovery and confrontation with the unfamiliar aspects of his own homeworld. Audiences can anticipate sequences where he navigates landscapes simultaneously alien and reminiscent of ancestral memory, mountains, deserts, and dense alien forests bearing echoes of a culture he only partially remembers. Dialogue in these early moments may reveal his internal struggle, such as whispered soliloquies reflecting doubt and uncertainty, lines questioning whether he is truly part of the Furyan legacy or whether survival has changed him irrevocably. Such intimate dialogue moments, contrasted with sweeping visual panoramas, reinforce the duality of Riddick's personal journey and the epic scope of Furya. During the first act, interactions with new characters likely establish the tone of cultural tension. Some Furians may greet him as a prophesied returnee, others with suspicion, mistrust, or outright hostility. Through these encounters, Riddick's adaptability is showcased, how he negotiates authority, asserts personal autonomy, and builds tentative alliances. These exchanges may be punctuated with minimalistic yet weighty dialogue, true to the franchise's style, where every word carries significance. The subtleties of expression, body language, and tone serve as markers of allegiance, expectation, and potential conflict. The second act is expected to escalate external conflict while layering in internal and societal tension. Riddick could confront both environmental hazards and antagonistic forces seeking control of Furya or revenge for historical grievances. These adversaries may include rival Furyan factions, remnants of the Necromongers, or mercenaries exploiting Furya's resources. Action sequences here would likely combine hand-to-hand combat, tactical maneuvering, and survivalist ingenuity, reflecting Riddick's predatory instincts honed across prior interstellar experiences. Scenes may also depict strategic use of terrain, ambushes in canyon networks, stealthy traversal through dense alien forests, and confrontation within subterranean Furyan structures, creating opportunities for cinematic spectacle while emphasizing resourcefulness and intelligence over brute force. Predicted political resolutions may emerge from these confrontations. Riddick may be forced to broker alliances between Furyan factions, mediate disputes, or challenge existing hierarchies to unify his people. Such moments are not likely to be resolved simplistically. The narrative may explore compromise, negotiation, and moral ambiguity. For instance, Riddick might advocate restraint in dealing with aggressors, balancing personal vengeance with communal survival. These resolutions serve as thematic focal points, demonstrating leadership, wisdom, and moral evolution in a character previously defined by instinct and survival. The third act likely brings the story to a symbolic and literal climax, merging personal stakes, cultural imperatives, and narrative payoff. Riddick may confront the central antagonist, perhaps a figure representing both physical threat and ideological opposition, in a sequence designed to test combat skill, environmental awareness, and ethical judgment simultaneously. The symbolic resonance of these encounters could be reinforced through visual motifs, light and shadow representing revelation versus hidden threat, environmental hazards reflecting internal conflict, and architectural structures symbolizing cultural memory and continuity. These scenes serve as the narrative fulcrum, where Riddick's journey intersects with the survival and future of the Furyan people, emphasizing the stakes on both personal and societal levels. Dialogue moments in the climactic act may crystallize central themes of identity, heritage, and responsibility. Riddick might deliver terse yet profound lines acknowledging the continuity of his people, the weight of choice, or the cost of survival. His interactions with allies or former adversaries may involve negotiation, subtle persuasion, or moral challenge, highlighting the depth of character evolution. By blending action with philosophical reflection, the film can maintain tension while inviting audiences to consider broader implications, ensuring that spectacle serves narrative and thematic purposes rather than existing in isolation. The resolution is anticipated to involve a combination of victory, reconciliation, and cultural reaffirmation. Riddick may emerge as a unifying figure, ensuring the survival and potential resurgence of the Furyan people. Alternatively, he may make decisions that preserve autonomy while leaving space for interpretation and future conflict. Such an ending would align with the franchise's history of moral ambiguity and resilience, maintaining continuity with Riddick's established characterization while expanding the mythos of the Furyans. Extended universe implications are considerable. By fully depicting Furya, the film lays groundwork for prequels exploring Furyan history, spin-offs following surviving factions, or serialized storytelling investigating interstellar politics and cultural legacies. It also allows for the integration of previously hinted-at narrative elements, such as prophecies surrounding Riddick, necromonger remnants or technological artifacts linked to Furyan civilization, creating continuity and coherence across the franchise. By deepening cultural, political, and ethical dimensions, Furya elevates Riddick from a survival-focused antihero to a mythic figure whose actions resonate across space and time. Thematic motifs are likely reinforced throughout these acts. Eyes and vision symbolize insight and perception, predatory instincts emphasize survival and adaptability, and environmental hazards serve as both physical and metaphorical trials. Light and darkness remain central, highlighting moral and existential choice. Fire, ruins, and ritualistic elements reinforce continuity, memory, and cultural heritage. Together, these motifs provide narrative cohesion and immersive storytelling, connecting Riddick's individual journey to broader mythic and cultural resonance. Cinematographically, the film may continue to leverage a mix of wide vistas and intimate close-ups. Sweeping aerial shots could depict Furyan landscapes, illustrating both beauty and danger, while handheld sequences during conflict or exploration emphasize tension, immediacy, and Riddick's predatory precision. Practical effects combined with CGI will likely bring alien flora, fauna, and structures to life, creating an immersive, tactile environment that feels both lived in and fantastical. Sound design and score, integrating ambient environmental elements, thematic motifs, and action-driven cues, will further reinforce immersion, tension, and emotional resonance. Ultimately, Riddick, Furya is positioned as a convergence of narrative ambition, character evolution, and franchise legacy. By exploring every layer of Furyan culture, environmental hazard, political intrigue, and symbolic significance, the film promises a multidimensional experience. Riddick's journey back to his homeworld embodies universal themes of heritage, identity, survival, and leadership, while simultaneously providing high-stakes action, visual spectacle, and mythic resonance. In doing so, Furya stands to redefine the franchise, ensuring that Riddick remains a central figure in science fiction cinema, bridging visceral excitement with philosophical and cultural depth, and offering audiences a richly textured, emotionally and visually immersive story. In Riddick, Furya, one of the central narrative drives is expected to be the psychological and moral evolution of Riddick himself. Across the previous 3 films, Riddick has been portrayed primarily as a survivalist and anti-hero, a figure operating outside of conventional morality, guided by instinct, pragmatism, and self-preservation. While he has demonstrated loyalty and occasional compassion, his character has largely functioned in shades of gray, navigating ethical dilemmas that often pit his survival against the welfare of others. Furya, by contrast, situates him in a position where the consequences of his decisions have broader implications, not only for himself but for the remaining Furyan population and potentially the wider interstellar landscape. This shift allows the film to explore themes of responsibility, legacy, and leadership, positioning Riddick in a quasi-messianic role where his tactical brilliance must now be coupled with judgment, diplomacy, and foresight. The Furyan culture, while not extensively detailed in prior films, serves as a rich canvas for exploring these themes. Traditionally depicted as a warrior society, the Furyans combine physical prowess with strategic acumen and a deep cultural connection to their environment. In Furya, the survivors of this race may possess differing philosophies on how to preserve their people and confront external threats, potentially creating internal conflict. Riddick, as one of the few remaining Furyans with the skills, experience, and instinct to act decisively, could find himself caught between competing factions, ethical imperatives, and the survivalist imperatives that have shaped his identity. The tension between individual survival and collective responsibility may be a recurring motif, providing narrative complexity beyond the straightforward action sequences for which the series is known. The antagonistic forces in Furya are poised to be multifaceted. While previous films often presented Riddick's enemies as clear-cut mercenary groups or alien predators, this installment may introduce morally and strategically complex opponents. Rogue factions of the Necromongers, remnants of other interstellar empires, or entirely new civilizations may act as narrative catalysts, challenging Riddick on both tactical and philosophical levels. Some antagonists could embody ideological opposition, presenting conflicting visions for the fate of Furya or the Furyan people. Others may serve as physical threats, testing Riddick's combat and survival capabilities in extreme environments. The integration of these layered antagonists would allow the narrative to explore not just action and spectacle but also strategic and ethical dilemmas, expanding the series' storytelling depth. Combat design and action sequences, a hallmark of the franchise, are expected to evolve in Furya. Previous films showcased Riddick's agility, night vision, and tactical ingenuity in diverse environments, from confined corridors to open deserts. This installment may expand the scale of action to encompass planetary battles, ambushes in alien terrain, and hand-to-hand combat interspersed with strategic environmental manipulation. The interaction between character skill and environment has always been central to the franchise, and in Furya, the addition of Furyan cultural elements, advanced alien technology, and potentially mystical or symbolic elements could further enrich combat scenarios. Each encounter would not only serve as a narrative device for tension but also as a medium to demonstrate Riddick's moral, strategic, and physical evolution. The broader universe context in Furya offers opportunities for expanded storytelling. Interstellar politics, the remnants of conquered civilizations, and the legacies of previous conflicts with the Necromongers provide a backdrop for both action and philosophical inquiry. The strategic positioning of Furya itself, as a nearly lost homeworld, may carry significant geopolitical and symbolic weight. Riddick's journey could intersect with wider conflicts, potentially establishing alliances or enmities that resonate across the galaxy. The interplay between personal journey and cosmic consequence is a hallmark of epic science fiction, and Furya seems positioned to exploit this interplay fully, offering both intimate character drama and grand-scale narrative stakes. Thematically, symbolism is likely to play a substantial role in Furya. Light and darkness, recurrent motifs in the franchise, may serve to represent not only physical survival but also moral and psychological dualities. The desert and alien landscapes could symbolize desolation, struggle, and rebirth, while the presence of other Furyans or potential allies might embody hope, legacy, and the continuity of culture. Riddick's navigation of these symbolic terrains may parallel his internal journey, reinforcing the film's exploration of identity, heritage, and responsibility. The juxtaposition of the familiar, Riddick's survivalist instincts, with the new, his cultural and interstellar responsibilities, creates a layered narrative structure, combining visceral action with reflective thematic exploration. The potential for fan engagement and speculation is another dimension of Furya's narrative strategy. Long-standing fans of the franchise are likely to interpret every narrative hint, casting choice, and visual element as a clue regarding the film's direction, particularly concerning Riddick's heritage and the fate of the Furyan people. The creative team, aware of this anticipation, may strategically release selective teasers, promotional images, or cryptic plot hints to generate discussion and maintain engagement. This dynamic not only heightens anticipation but also allows for a participatory dimension of storytelling, where audiences actively engage with the universe's mythology and contribute to its evolving discourse. The integration of technological elements within the film's universe is also significant. Advanced weaponry, spacecraft, and potentially genetically or cybernetically enhanced beings could expand the narrative possibilities while challenging Riddick's ingenuity. The franchise has previously balanced high-tech elements with survivalist realism, and in Furya, this balance may be tested further. Riddick's reliance on instinct, tactical reasoning, and environmental manipulation may be juxtaposed with sophisticated technologies or alien abilities, creating high-stakes tension and reinforcing the central theme of adaptation and resilience. Finally, the psychological depth of Riddick's character is anticipated to deepen in this installment. His isolation, moral pragmatism, and past traumas provide fertile ground for introspection, particularly as he confronts the cultural and personal legacies of Furya. Questions of identity, belonging, and purpose may frame his interactions with other characters, both allies and antagonists, while also informing his strategic and combat decisions. This psychological dimension, coupled with the franchise's established action and suspense elements, positions Furya as a narrative that is both emotionally resonant and viscerally engaging. Furya's ecosystem is as lethal as it is intricate, with each species designed to create unique narrative and thematic challenges for Riddick. Apex predators dominate the planet, each displaying a combination of intelligence, agility, and environmental adaptation. For instance, one predator resembles a quadrupedal hunter with chameleon-like skin that mimics terrain, capable of ambushing prey silently. Its hunting behavior forces Riddick to rely not on brute strength alone, but on heightened senses, environmental manipulation, and tactical ingenuity. Another apex predator is a flying creature with ultrasonic echolocation, forcing combat in 3 dimensions and exploiting verticality, a stark contrast to prior films, where most threats were confined to ground level. The psychological tension created by these encounters underscores the constant stakes of life and death, emphasizing Riddick's reliance on both instinct and intellect. Secondary fauna are no less critical to the narrative. Scavenger packs operate with surprising coordination, their presence indicating environmental shifts or alerting Riddick to larger predators. Symbiotic species integrate with the landscape, such as parasitic plants that ensnare unsuspecting prey or bioluminescent organisms that act as deceptive lures. These ecological layers create a dynamic survival puzzle. Riddick must predict interactions not only between himself and a single predator but among multiple species in a constantly shifting ecosystem. This complex interdependence mirrors the social and political networks of surviving Furyans, drawing thematic parallels between environmental and cultural survival. Some creatures also serve as narrative metaphors. For example, subterranean burrowers reflect Riddick's introspective journey into the past and ancestral memory. Their thread is subtle, emerging unpredictably, mirroring the way history and legacy can intrude on present actions. Aerial predators, by contrast, represent external, unavoidable challenges, illustrating the existential pressures of a universe indifferent to individual agency. Each creature encounter is thus both a literal and symbolic test, blending visceral spectacle with philosophical resonance. Riddick's approach to survival in Furya combines martial skill, environmental manipulation, and strategic foresight. His combat philosophy emphasizes efficiency and adaptability, integrating elements of Furyan training with instinctual innovation. Hand-to-hand combat sequences employ joint locks, strikes exploiting predator vulnerabilities, and rapid environmental improvisation. For instance, in rocky canyons, Riddick uses slopes and boulders to control momentum, turning terrain into a weapon. Weapons range from improvised tools crafted from local materials to advanced Furyan relics recovered from ruins, blending primal and technological approaches. Night vision and enhanced sensory perception remain key tactical advantages. Riddick can detect subtle shifts in movement, sound, and thermal signatures, allowing preemptive positioning, ambushes, and evasion. Importantly, his strategy extends beyond combat. He observes predator behavior, understands ecosystem dynamics, and manipulates both fauna and human adversaries to his benefit. Psychological warfare, predicting enemy behavior, exploiting rivalries, and inducing fear, complements physical skill. This holistic survival strategy ensures that Riddick succeeds not merely through strength, but through foresight, cunning, and adaptability, maintaining the franchise's emphasis on intellect as survival. Environmental hazards are equally integral to combat strategy. Riddick uses toxic swamps, collapsing structures, and unstable terrain as both deterrents and tools, demonstrating mastery over the ecosystem itself. Each battle is therefore an intricate interplay of predator, prey, and environment, reflecting the narrative's broader theme: survival is inseparable from understanding the world in all its complexity. Riddick, Furya not only resolves immediate narrative arcs but establishes fertile ground for interstellar expansion. With the return of Furyan survivors and Riddick's potential leadership, the franchise could explore new political structures, cultural resurgence, and cosmic-level threats. Neighboring civilizations, ranging from mercenary syndicates to remnants of necromonger factions, introduce opportunities for interstellar diplomacy, conflict, and strategic alliance building. These extensions allow the narrative to probe philosophical questions about power, morality, and destiny. How does one balance individual freedom with collective responsibility? Can leadership be reconciled with autonomy, or does survival demand ethical compromise? The Furyan heritage, fully explored in Furya, provides a conceptual anchor for these expansions. By delving into ancestral memory, spiritual philosophy, and societal reconstruction, the franchise frames Riddick as both a participant in and observer of larger cosmic forces. This duality, the solitary anti-hero navigating existential peril while simultaneously influencing the trajectory of a civilization, underscores the series' unique narrative ambition. It allows action-driven sequences to coexist with meditation on identity, morality, and survival in a universe defined by chaos and indifference. Furya's unresolved mysteries, such as hidden artifacts, uncharted territories, and the true extent of Furyan abilities, function as narrative springboards. These elements encourage fan speculation and provide narrative flexibility for future installments, ensuring that Riddick's universe can continue to expand organically while maintaining thematic and philosophical coherence. The interplay of survival mechanics, ecological realism, and ethical inquiry establishes a narrative model capable of sustaining long-term exploration of both character and cosmos. Riddick, Furya is a synthesis of the franchise's defining elements: survivalist tension, moral ambiguity, philosophical inquiry, and immersive world-building. The planet itself acts as both stage and character, populated by predators, hazards, and remnants of Furyan civilization that challenge Riddick physically, mentally, and ethically. Allies and adversaries introduce complex social dynamics, forcing Riddick to navigate leadership, trust, and strategy while maintaining autonomy. Combat and survival are multidimensional, blending instinct, skill, environmental manipulation, and psychological foresight. Ecology, sociology, and mythology converge to create a universe that is as intellectually stimulating as it is viscerally exciting. Furya represents both culmination and springboard. It resolves personal and cultural narrative arcs while opening possibilities for future interstellar adventures, political intrigue, and philosophical exploration. The careful integration of practical effects, CGI, cinematography, sound design, and score ensures a fully immersive experience, supporting the narrative's thematic and visual ambitions. Ultimately, Riddick, Furya reinforces the franchise's core identity, a universe where survival, morality, and identity are in constant tension, where character and environment are inseparable, and where spectacle and philosophy coexist in a seamless, exhilarating narrative tapestry. It stands as both a continuation of Riddick's journey and a blueprint for the universe's future, merging action, intellect, and mythos in a way that is uniquely resonant and enduring. As Riddick progresses through Furya, the film delves deeply into the moral and ethical dimensions of his journey, elevating the narrative beyond the visceral immediacy of survival into the contemplative realm of decision-making under duress. Unlike previous installments, where Riddick's actions were often dictated by instinct and reflex, Furya emphasizes the interplay between consequence, responsibility, and ethical judgment. The stakes of his decisions are amplified by the fragility of Furyan society, the cultural weight of prophecy, and the looming presence of both external and internal adversaries. Every choice, whether to intervene in a conflict, to trust or withhold trust from allies, or to risk personal safety for collective gain, carries potential ramifications for the survival and identity of an entire people. This framing transforms Riddick from a solitary anti-hero into a figure navigating a complex moral universe, one in which courage, strategy, and empathy converge to define heroism. Furya's depiction of Furyan rituals and cultural practices is central to this exploration of ethical and philosophical stakes. The surviving Furyans have maintained ceremonial observances that reinforce social cohesion, preserve historical memory, and transmit moral and philosophical codes. These rituals, ranging from rites of passage and martial training to commemorative ceremonies for those lost in past conflicts, are depicted with meticulous attention to detail. Each observance carries symbolic significance, revealing values such as honor, courage, endurance, and intergenerational responsibility. Riddick's participation in or observation of these practices provides insight into the intersection of personal identity and cultural heritage. It is through engagement with these rituals that Riddick negotiates his own sense of belonging, reconciles with the expectations placed upon him by prophecy, and internalizes lessons about leadership, collective responsibility, and moral courage. The philosophical resonance of Furya is reinforced through the ethical dilemmas embedded in the plot. Unlike conventional action narratives where antagonists are externalized and solutions are straightforward, Furya situates conflict within overlapping spheres of morality, strategy, and survival. Riddick must weigh the lives of individuals against the survival of the collective, the preservation of knowledge against the demands of immediate tactical necessity, and the interpretation of prophecy against the autonomy of his own judgment. These dilemmas are intensified by environmental hazards, hostile forces, and internal socio-political tensions, creating a narrative landscape in which every action reverberates with both narrative and thematic significance. By foregrounding these ethical considerations, Furya challenges audiences to consider the complexity of leadership, the responsibilities of power, and the moral ambiguities inherent in survival under extreme circumstances. Speculative post-climax scenarios suggest that Furya will establish narrative threads that extend beyond the immediate story, shaping the future trajectory of both Riddick and the Furyans. The resolution of the external conflict is likely to result in the stabilization of Furyan society, providing opportunities for cultural restoration, the reconstruction of infrastructure, and the re-establishment of social cohesion. Riddick's personal journey may culminate in the reconciliation of his anti-heroic tendencies with his role as a leader and symbolic figure, integrating the lessons of survival, morality, and cultural responsibility he has acquired throughout the film. Simultaneously, unresolved questions, such as potential external threats, the interpretation of prophecy, or the ongoing evolution of Furyan society, allow the narrative to project forward, creating the possibility for sequels, spin-offs, and transmedia expansions. The integration of action, introspection, and philosophical themes in Furya reflects a sophisticated understanding of pacing, narrative rhythm, and audience engagement. High-intensity sequences, such as confrontations with hostile forces or the navigation of environmental hazards, are interspersed with quieter, reflective moments that explore character psychology, cultural context, and ethical deliberation. This dynamic structure ensures that the audience experiences both visceral excitement and intellectual engagement, emphasizing that the stakes of the story encompass both survival and meaning. The balance between spectacle and introspection reinforces the franchise's evolving narrative sophistication, demonstrating that action can coexist with contemplation and that character-driven storytelling can coexist with epic world-building. Furya's visual and auditory design further amplifies these thematic and narrative intentions. Cinematography captures both the grandeur of the Furyan landscapes and the intimacy of interpersonal interactions, creating a dual sense of scale and psychological depth. Lighting and color grading underscore contrasts between hope and despair, isolation and community, memory and action. Sound design enhances immersion, with environmental cues, creature sounds, and the diegetic elements of Furyan culture reinforcing the narrative's emotional and philosophical beats. Music punctuates both action and reflection, guiding audience engagement and reinforcing the story's thematic contours. Collectively, these design elements ensure that Furya communicates meaning across multiple sensory and cognitive levels, creating an experience that is both visceral and contemplative. The thematic exploration of Furya culminates in a meditation on resilience, legacy, and the interplay between individual and collective identity. Riddick's journey, though rooted in survival and action, ultimately engages with questions of cultural continuity, the responsibilities of leadership, and the moral imperatives inherent in guiding a people through adversity. The film portrays resilience not as mere endurance but as adaptive intelligence, ethical decision-making, and the capacity to reconcile personal autonomy with collective responsibility. Legacy is depicted not solely as the preservation of myth or cultural memory but as the tangible outcomes of action, choice, and the cultivation of knowledge and social cohesion. In this synthesis, Furya positions Riddick's journey as both singular and emblematic, reflecting universal concerns about identity, morality, and the survival of communities in the face of existential threats. Finally, Furya situates itself within the broader narrative and cultural trajectory of the Riddick franchise. By addressing long-standing questions about Riddick's origins, the survival of Furyans, and the fulfillment of prophecy, the film honors the franchise's legacy. At the same time, its thematic depth, narrative sophistication, and visual ambition expand the universe's possibilities, providing fertile ground for future stories, explorations of secondary characters, and transmedia engagement. The film balances closure with anticipation, ensuring that audiences are rewarded with both resolution and the promise of ongoing discovery. In this way, Furya exemplifies the evolution of franchise storytelling, integrating spectacle, character, and philosophy into a cohesive cinematic experience that resonates on multiple levels. In Riddick, Furya, the environmental storytelling is expected to play a pivotal role in shaping both the narrative and the audience's perception of the Furyan homeworld. Unlike previous films, which focus primarily on survival in confined or single-terrain environments, Furya as a planet offers diverse landscapes that can reflect the culture, history, and current plight of the Furyans. Desolate deserts, rugged mountain ranges, and cavernous subterranean systems may all serve as both physical and symbolic landscapes, illustrating the harsh realities of Riddick's heritage and the challenges that the remaining Furyans face. Each environment may be intricately designed to reinforce narrative themes. Sandstorms and barren expanses may signify struggle and isolation, while hidden valleys or ancient ruins could symbolize hope, continuity, and the remnants of a civilization nearly lost. Such environmental storytelling enables the planet itself to act almost as a character, influencing the actions, decisions, and growth of Riddick and those around him. The design and integration of alien lifeforms and antagonistic creatures are likely to expand the franchise's visual and narrative scope. In previous films, alien predators were often used to create suspense, challenge Riddick's survival instincts, and establish a sense of otherworldly danger. In Furya, these creatures may be more varied and integrated into the Furyan ecosystem, serving both as natural threats and as symbols of the planet's resilience and complexity. The inclusion of evolved predators or engineered lifeforms could introduce layers of tension and strategy, requiring Riddick to adapt his combat tactics and leverage both environmental features and his own abilities to overcome challenges. The interaction between Riddick and these lifeforms may also reinforce thematic motifs, such as the balance between predator and prey, the harshness of survival, and the necessity of adaptation in a universe governed by both chance and skill. Action choreography in Furya is anticipated to maintain the high-intensity, visceral quality that has characterized the franchise while incorporating new dimensions of scale and strategy. Previous films often depicted Riddick's hand-to-hand combat and small-scale engagements with precise, tension-filled sequences, emphasizing his agility, strength, and tactical intelligence. In this installment, action may extend to larger-scale conflicts involving multiple combatants, planetary battles, and the strategic use of terrain and technology. Such sequences are expected to combine choreography with narrative logic, ensuring that each combat scene not only excites the audience but also advances character development and plot progression. The integration of Furyan combat traditions, as implied by the species' warrior heritage, may provide distinctive fighting styles or strategies that differentiate Furya from prior entries. Philosophical and thematic undertones are projected to be more pronounced in Furya. Beyond the immediate survivalist and action-oriented narratives, the film may probe questions of identity, morality, and legacy. Riddick's position as one of the last Furyans places him in a unique moral and existential context. His decisions will impact not only his immediate survival but also the survival of his people and the integrity of their culture. Themes of leadership, duty, and the ethical use of power are likely to emerge as central concerns, creating tension between Riddick's instinctual pragmatism and the responsibilities imposed by heritage. The narrative may explore whether survival alone is sufficient or if it must be coupled with moral vision, strategic planning, and the preservation of cultural identity. The film also holds potential for exploring interpersonal dynamics and relational complexity. Alliances with surviving Furyans or other interstellar allies may be tested by divergent goals, cultural differences, and personal histories. Conflicts between traditional Furyan codes and Riddick's survivalist ethos may create tension and narrative depth, highlighting the difficulties inherent in balancing individual agency with communal responsibility. Such relational dynamics not only enrich the story but also provide opportunities for character development, emotional resonance, and ethical exploration, distinguishing Furya from purely action-driven entries. From a franchise perspective, Riddick, Furya may serve as a bridge to future narrative possibilities. By expanding the Furyan mythology, introducing new antagonistic forces, and situating Riddick within a broader interstellar context, the film sets the stage for potential sequels, spin-offs, or extended universe narratives. The decisions made by Riddick, the survival or demise of Furyan characters, and the outcomes of interstellar conflicts could have ripple effects throughout the franchise, influencing the trajectory of subsequent stories and the evolution of the Riddick universe. The film's exploration of cultural heritage, identity, and moral complexity may also attract new audiences interested in character-driven science fiction, while maintaining appeal for longtime fans who value the franchise's action-oriented roots. Technological and aesthetic elements are anticipated to play a crucial role in reinforcing narrative themes and immersion. Advanced spacecraft, alien architecture, weaponry, and possibly bioengineered enhancements or technology-integrated lifeforms may enrich the visual tapestry of Furya, providing both spectacle and narrative functionality. These elements can serve as both tools and obstacles for Riddick, challenging his ingenuity and reinforcing the thematic focus on adaptation, resilience, and tactical intelligence. The combination of practical effects with cutting-edge CGI is expected to ensure a visually compelling and immersive experience, maintaining continuity with the franchise's established aesthetic while expanding its scope. Finally, the interplay between narrative, environment, action, and theme in Furya underscores the franchise's evolution from survival-focused action to a more complex, multi-layered storytelling approach. Riddick's journey on Furya is poised to combine visceral excitement with reflective exploration of identity, legacy, and morality, offering a cinematic experience that is both thrilling and intellectually engaging. By situating the protagonist within a richly detailed cultural and planetary context, the film allows audiences to engage not only with spectacular action sequences but also with questions of human, or Furyan, nature, societal responsibility, and the ethical imperatives that arise when one holds the fate of a people in their hands. The Riddick universe has long thrived on the tension between order and chaos, civilization and wilderness, predator and prey. Riddick, Furya situates the narrative on Riddick's homeworld, Furya, a planet scarred by history yet pulsing with the remnants of a once proud civilization. The Furyans were not merely warriors, they were thinkers, strategists, and survivors who understood the delicate balance between power and restraint. Their society valued physical prowess, mental acuity, and moral flexibility, recognizing that survival sometimes required crossing lines others could not. By focusing on Furya itself, the narrative situates Riddick not just in a physical landscape but within a philosophical framework that resonates with his personal ethos. He has always been a creature of instinct, yet the history of his people challenges him to consider the consequences of his choices in a broader temporal and cultural context. The design of Furya reflects this philosophy. Ruined towers, partially buried monuments, and skeletal structures hint at technological advancement long lost, creating visual tension between the sophistication of the past and the raw struggle of the present. These environments act almost as characters themselves, influencing Riddick's decisions, shaping encounters with enemies, and providing both refuge and danger. The creatures inhabiting Furya add another layer of narrative depth. Some are outright predators, testing his combat skills and reflexes, while others are more subtle threats, requiring strategy, patience, and deception. These encounters highlight Riddick's unique combination of heightened senses, strategic thinking, and adaptability. The creatures also serve a thematic purpose, symbolizing the primal forces of nature and the universe that exist beyond human control or understanding. The narrative structure of the film weaves together multiple timelines, blending the present journey with fragmented memories of Riddick's past. These memories are not only personal, they are historical records of the Furyan people. Through visions, dreams, and recovered artifacts, Riddick pieces together the story of his ancestors, understanding the reasons behind their near extinction and the powers they once wielded. The story emphasizes legacy, memory, and the weight of history, suggesting that Riddick's actions are both a continuation of and deviation from the paths laid out by his forebears. The story asks profound questions. What does it mean to inherit a violent history? How much of one's identity is defined by ancestry versus personal choice? Riddick embodies the answers through action, allowing viewers to infer his internal struggle through responses to danger, leadership, and moral dilemmas. The antagonists in Riddick, Furya, are crafted to complement this philosophical inquiry. They are multidimensional, possessing motivations rooted in survival, ideology, or fear. Some are external invaders seeking to dominate Furya, while others are internal rivals vying for control over the remaining Furyans. Their presence forces Riddick to navigate complex alliances and betrayals, testing not only his combat abilities but also his judgment and ethical compass. The film emphasizes that power can corrupt, but survival requires pragmatism, a recurring motif that resonates with the larger themes of the franchise. Cinematography reinforces these narrative elements. Sweeping shots of barren landscapes establish scale and isolation, close-ups in dark corridors highlight vulnerability and tension, and high-speed action sequences juxtapose chaos and precision, reflecting the duality of Riddick's nature as predator and strategist. The visual language communicates as much about character and theme as dialogue, creating an immersive experience aligned with the protagonist's perspective. Musically, the score enhances immersion. Orchestral motifs blend with electronic textures, creating soundscapes that echo Furya's desolation and the intensity of Riddick's encounters. Quiet passages allow for suspense and reflection, while sudden crescendos punctuate moments of conflict or revelation. Music acts as a bridge between visual and emotional elements, ensuring audiences remain engaged throughout the story. Themes of identity and belonging are central. Riddick has always operated as an outsider, yet the return to his homeworld forces him to confront questions of legacy, loyalty, and responsibility. The film explores how personal identity is shaped by environment, history, and social bonds, suggesting that even the most self-reliant cannot entirely escape their roots. Interactions with surviving Furyans reveal tension between collective responsibility and individual autonomy, reflecting diverse interpretations of survival, loyalty, and honor. Through these dynamics, the film examines leadership complexities, the burden of expectations, and the moral ambiguities inherent in guiding a people through crisis. The production team's approach to visual effects balances realism with stylization. Practical effects preserve tactile realism, enhancing the believability of the world and the danger Riddick faces. Costuming, makeup, and prosthetics reflect both environmental harshness and physiological adaptations of inhabitants. These choices contribute to the immersive quality of the film, ensuring audiences are consistently engaged with the narrative world. The film expands on philosophical and existential questions. The series has explored the nature of power, the inevitability of death, and tension between destiny and free will. In Furya, these questions are foregrounded through interactions with environment, allies, and enemies. The narrative invites reflection on the meaning of survival, the cost of violence, and potential for redemption. Riddick's journey embodies the human struggle to navigate chaos, harness innate abilities, and find purpose in an indifferent universe. These existential layers elevate the film beyond standard action or science fiction, positioning it as a meditation on resilience, morality, and identity. The anticipation surrounding the film is amplified by the franchise's long-standing fanbase. Devotees are invested not only in Riddick as a character but in the universe he inhabits. The fourth installment answers lingering questions while providing new mysteries, sparking speculation on returning characters, Furyan powers, necromonger influences, and Riddick's journey post-Furya. The filmmakers honor the franchise's legacy while delivering narrative depth that maintains suspense and engagement. The broader implications extend into discussions of storytelling, genre blending, and character study. The franchise challenges conventional boundaries, combining survival horror, epic space opera, action, and philosophical inquiry. Furya continues this tradition, offering both spectacle and introspection, demonstrating that science fiction can explore complex ethical, cultural, and existential themes. By balancing visual grandeur with character-driven narrative, the film satisfies both casual viewers and dedicated fans seeking meaningful exploration of the Riddick universe. The Furyan race represents one of the most compelling elements of the franchise. Not merely humans with exceptional abilities, they are the inheritors of a harsh, violent, and spiritually complex heritage. The franchise emphasizes that being Furyan is not simply a matter of physicality but of mindset, discipline, and moral complexity, reflecting the tension between innate power and personal choice. The socio-political dynamics of Furya are integral. Fragmented communities governed by different survival codes and leadership styles create internal conflict that parallels external threats. Riddick, historically a loner, must navigate these political and social complexities, weighing instinct against the necessity of cooperation. One of the most striking elements of the production is attention to environmental storytelling. Landscapes, ruins, and habitats convey deep historical and cultural meaning. Crumbling towers suggest hierarchical civilization, monolithic statues and inscriptions hint at spiritual beliefs, natural hazards establish narrative stakes. These visual cues allow audiences to infer history, culture, and ecological evolution without heavy exposition. Creature design continues the franchise's blending of horror, science fiction, and realism. Indigenous fauna occupy specific ecological niches, interacting with environment and other life forms. Some species test combat skill, others require strategy, deception, or psychological insight. Encounters highlight the unpredictability of nature and the thin line between hunter and prey. These creatures serve both narrative and thematic functions, emphasizing adaptation and survival in a merciless universe. Psychologically, Riddick's journey is about internal reckoning as much as external survival. Confronted with ruins, remnants of his people, and the threat of extinction, he grapples with identity, purpose, and moral responsibility. These conflicts, amplified by allies and adversaries, reinforce that survival is intellectual and ethical, not merely physical. Riddick's psychological landscape mirrors the environmental and narrative complexity, creating multidimensional storytelling. Narrative pacing alternates high-intensity action with reflective moments, allowing character development and world-building to unfold organically. Flashbacks, visions, and artifacts reveal Furyan history and Riddick's past, enhancing narrative tension and audience engagement. Riddick's enemies are complex. Rogue necromonger remnants, opportunistic invaders, and radical exiles operate with distinct ideologies and survival strategies. Their presence forces Riddick to navigate moral gray zones, emphasizing adaptability. Allies, including surviving Furyans and interstellar mercenaries, act as foils, testing judgment, trust, and ethical compromise in high-stakes contexts. These dynamics explore leadership, survival, and moral responsibility. Furya itself is a character. Its geography, harsh deserts, jagged mountains, and ruined cities, interacts with ecology and narrative. Apex predators, scavengers, and symbiotic organisms shape Riddick's decision-making. Environmental hazards, extreme weather, toxic regions, and unstable terrain, underscore mortality and contingency. Survival requires intelligence, strategy, and adaptability. Production design reinforces immersion. Sets, costumes, and props reflect environmental adaptation, cultural identity, and historical continuity. Practical effects blend with CGI to maintain realism, particularly in creature design, environmental hazards, and combat. Cinematography captures scale, isolation, and tension, while sound design and score enhance atmosphere, integrating environmental, combat, and creature audio with orchestral electronic motifs. Combat strategies in Furya emphasize martial skill, environmental manipulation, and strategic foresight. Riddick's hand-to-hand techniques leverage terrain and predator behavior. Weapons range from improvised tools to advanced Furyan relics. Night vision and enhanced senses provide tactical advantage, while psychological manipulation complements physical skill. Environmental hazards function as tools or deterrents, making each encounter a complex interplay of predator, prey, and environment. The creature catalog includes apex predators, pack hunters, symbiotic organisms, and environmental hazards. Each species provides narrative and thematic significance, from subterranean burrowers symbolizing introspection to aerial predators representing existential pressure. Secondary fauna, including scavengers and bioluminescent lures, contribute to dynamic survival challenges. These ecological layers mirror societal and ethical dynamics within Furyan communities. Franchise comparison shows Furya synthesizes elements from Pitch Black, survival horror, Chronicles of Riddick, epic mythology, and Riddick, 2013, gritty action. Furya combines intimate survival tension, epic stakes, and philosophical exploration, positioning Riddick within both personal and cosmic narratives. Fan theories speculate on remaining Furyans, prophetic destiny, hidden artifacts, and interstellar implications, reflecting narrative depth and expansion potential. Speculative universe expansion positions Riddick as both participant and observer in cosmic forces. Interstellar politics, resurgence of Furyan culture, and potential conflict with neighboring civilizations provide fertile ground for sequels. Themes of survival, leadership, morality, and identity continue to intertwine, ensuring narrative, philosophical, and action-driven cohesion. Furya's unresolved mysteries allow organic franchise growth while maintaining thematic integrity. In conclusion, Riddick, Furya synthesizes ecological complexity, societal reconstruction, and psychologically driven narrative to deepen the franchise's mythos. Creatures, environments, combat, and philosophical undertones create a richly textured cinematic experience. Furya acts as culmination and springboard, resolving narrative arcs while opening interstellar possibilities. Action, intellect, and mythos coexist, ensuring audiences are engaged emotionally, intellectually, and viscerally. Survival, morality, and identity remain in tension, and Riddick's journey continues as a compelling exploration of character, cosmos, and consequence. Riddick, Furya presents an opportunity to explore the ecology of the Furyan homeworld in unprecedented depth. Prior films touched on planetary environments in terms of hazards, but Furya's ecosystem is likely to be a fully realized, complex network of interdependent species, landscapes, and environmental conditions. Deserts may harbor nocturnal predators adapted to extreme heat, vast canyon systems could shelter rare flora capable of sustaining Furyan communities, and subterranean networks might contain ancient ecological remnants, suggesting that the planet's surface and underground layers are both dangerous and life-sustaining. This ecological complexity allows the narrative to integrate environmental challenges organically into the story, ensuring that survival sequences are grounded in realistic planetary science while remaining visually striking. Furyan adaptations, from biological resilience to strategic use of terrain, highlight a symbiosis between species and environment, reinforcing themes of heritage, adaptability, and instinct. Speculative alien species are likely to inhabit Furya, each serving narrative and symbolic functions. Predatory creatures could provide physical threats that test Riddick's instincts and adaptability, while docile or intelligent species might serve as narrative foils or allies, offering insight into the planet's history and Furyan cultural memory. These species may interact with the ecosystem in ways that reflect the planet's balance of life and danger, and their presence could mirror broader thematic concerns: predation, survival, intelligence, and the relationship between beings and their environment. The visual design of these creatures is likely to combine practical effects with CGI, maintaining tactile realism while allowing for alien creativity. Their inclusion emphasizes that Furya is not simply a backdrop for human drama but a living, reactive environment, shaping the narrative and character choices organically. Reconstructed dialogue in key sequences may reveal Riddick's internal and external conflicts. For example, in a tentative scene with a Furyan elder, Riddick might say, "I've walked the void, yet this world, it feels like it waits for me." Such lines are emblematic of the franchise's tendency toward minimalism and weight, where brevity amplifies emotional resonance. Exchanges with skeptical or hostile Furyans could include terse warnings, philosophical questioning, or moral challenges, highlighting the tension between survival, identity, and duty. Dialogue with antagonists may similarly combine strategic cunning and ideological debate, emphasizing Riddick's evolution from a solitary predator to a figure engaged with complex social and ethical dynamics. Narrative pacing in Furya is likely to alternate between high-intensity action sequences and slower, contemplative moments. Early acts may emphasize exploration, discovery, and tentative alliance building, allowing audiences to absorb the richness of the world and Furyan culture. Mid-film sequences may escalate through survival challenges, combat, and moral dilemmas, maintaining tension while deepening character arcs. The final act is expected to deliver concentrated action interspersed with symbolic and thematic resolution, blending spectacle with narrative closure. This pacing mirrors prior installments while enhancing the mythic scope, ensuring that the story is both immersive and emotionally resonant. Easter eggs from previous films are expected to reward longtime fans. References to prior encounters with necromongers, the Lord Marshal, or events on Crematoria and Helion Prime may be embedded in visual design, dialogue, or plot elements. Subtle nods, such as objects, architectural motifs, or weapon designs, could link Furya to the broader Riddick universe. These elements reinforce continuity and fan engagement while signaling that Furya is not a standalone narrative but a culmination of decades of storytelling. Such details also provide opportunities for deeper world building, allowing attentive viewers to trace the evolution of characters, technology, and interstellar politics. Timeline placement situates Furya after the events of Riddick, 2013, but before any potential sequels, resolving long-standing questions regarding Furyan heritage and the prophesied role of Riddick in his people's survival. This placement allows the narrative to reference prior adventures while establishing new stakes and opportunities for character growth. It also creates space for spin-offs or prequels exploring the history of the Furyans, the Necromonger conflicts, and Riddick's earlier exploits. By situating the story carefully within the franchise chronology, the filmmakers ensure coherence and continuity, reinforcing the significance of Furya as both a narrative and mythic touchstone. Interactions with new characters may further explore themes of trust, loyalty, and cultural integration. Riddick's alliances with survivors or young Furyans could highlight mentorship, shared responsibility, and the tension between tradition and innovation. Potential adversaries may challenge Riddick not only physically but philosophically, questioning his interpretation of Furyan values, leadership, or moral responsibility. These dynamics provide dramatic richness, ensuring that character interactions serve both narrative and thematic functions. Symbolic climaxes are expected to integrate visual motifs, character arcs, and cultural resolution. Riddick's confrontation with a central antagonist may occur in a space resonant with Furyan symbolism, ancient ruins, ceremonial grounds, or environmental features tied to cultural memory, amplifying the emotional and thematic impact. The resolution could involve acts of unification, reclamation, or moral affirmation, leaving audiences with a sense of continuity, legacy, and the enduring spirit of a nearly erased civilization. Extended universe implications remain profound. By establishing Furya in visual, cultural, and narrative detail, the film opens avenues for expanded storytelling, including prequels, sequels, or serialized adaptations exploring Furyan politics, cultural revival, or interstellar diplomacy. The narrative also positions Riddick as a central mythic figure whose legacy can influence the trajectory of multiple societies across the galaxy. This approach ensures the franchise's relevance and creative flexibility, appealing to both long-term fans and new audiences. Ultimately, Riddick, Furya combines narrative ambition, ecological and cultural world-building, speculative alien design, reconstructed dialogue, precise pacing, and franchise continuity. The film promises to be a landmark in science fiction storytelling, blending visceral action, visual spectacle, mythic resonance, and emotional depth. By fully realizing Furya as a living, complex environment, exploring Riddick's personal and cultural journey, and connecting the story to the broader franchise, the film ensures that audiences experience not just a continuation of Riddick's adventures but an immersive, multidimensional exploration of identity, survival, heritage, and the enduring power of myth. In Riddick, Furya, the narrative sequences are likely to be carefully structured to balance high-intensity action with character development and thematic exploration. Unlike prior films, which often relied on a single, isolated planet or limited set of environments, Furya offers a multitude of potential locales and scenarios that can interweave survival, combat, and interpersonal conflict. The story may begin with Riddick's arrival or crash landing on his homeworld, immediately confronting the physical and environmental challenges that the planet presents. From treacherous deserts to jagged mountain ranges and potentially hazardous underground caverns, each location can act as both a literal obstacle and a metaphorical reflection of Riddick's internal journey. These sequences are likely to highlight Riddick's signature blend of stealth, strategy, and combat proficiency, requiring him to navigate complex terrain, avoid environmental hazards, and respond to unexpected threats in real time. Riddick's tactical strategies will likely be central to the film's action sequences, demonstrating not only his physical capabilities but also his ability to manipulate his surroundings and exploit the weaknesses of both creatures and human opponents. Previous films have shown Riddick employing ambushes, traps, and guerrilla tactics to overcome enemies that often outnumber or outgun him. In Furya, these strategies may evolve to include a deeper understanding of his homeworld's topography, Furyan cultural artifacts, and environmental features that can be leveraged against adversaries. For instance, ancient Furyan ruins could provide hiding places or defensive advantages, while naturally occurring hazards, such as extreme weather or unstable terrain, may serve as tactical tools. These elements would emphasize Riddick's ingenuity and reinforce the thematic connection between character, culture, and environment. Enemy factions in Furya are anticipated to be more diverse and nuanced than in previous installments. While mercenary groups and alien predators provided clear antagonistic forces in earlier films, this installment may introduce politically and ideologically complex enemies. Rogue necromonger remnants, interstellar opportunists, and rival Furyan factions may challenge Riddick in ways that extend beyond physical combat, requiring negotiation, strategic alliances, and moral decision-making. These factions may not only contest control of the planet or resources but also vie for influence over the remaining Furyan population, creating layered conflict that blends personal, cultural, and interstellar stakes. The interplay between these factions can generate tension, plot twists, and unexpected alliances, maintaining narrative engagement while expanding the universe's political complexity. Interstellar politics, though previously a background element, may gain prominence in Furya. The outcomes of conflicts on Furya could have ramifications across neighboring systems, particularly if the Furyan survival becomes linked to broader strategic interests. Diplomatic challenges, contested territories, and the legacy of previous imperial conquests may all influence Riddick's decisions, forcing him to weigh immediate survival against long-term consequences. This expansion of the political landscape adds depth to the narrative, situating Riddick's personal journey within a wider cosmic framework and highlighting the franchise's potential for multi-layered storytelling. Detailed action set pieces are likely to be a highlight of the film, combining Riddick's personal combat style with large-scale engagements and environmental hazards. Hand-to-hand combat, stealth-based takedowns, and predator-prey sequences will likely be complemented by larger confrontations involving groups of adversaries, alien creatures, or technologically advanced foes. These sequences can integrate dynamic camera work, intricate choreography, and practical effects combined with CGI to create immersive and visually striking moments. Furthermore, environmental storytelling can be woven directly into these set pieces. Riddick might lure enemies into traps that exploit natural features, use Furyan architecture for tactical advantage, or confront predators in their native habitats, emphasizing the interconnection between character, environment, and narrative stakes. Fan theories and audience speculation will likely play a role in shaping expectations for Furya. Longtime fans have speculated about various potential storylines, including the discovery of hidden Furyan settlements, confrontation with a previously unknown enemy force, or the revelation of Riddick's ultimate destiny within his race. While these theories remain speculative, the creative team may choose to subtly reference or incorporate elements that engage with fan expectations, thereby fostering anticipation and discussion. The balance between delivering surprises and honoring established franchise lore will be critical in maintaining narrative credibility while satisfying the fanbase. Psychologically, the film may explore Riddick's evolving relationship with responsibility, heritage, and morality. Returning to Furya places him at the intersection of survivalist pragmatism and the moral obligations inherent in being one of the last of his people. The tension between instinctive self-preservation and the ethical imperative to protect and lead his kin creates fertile ground for character development. These psychological layers may be reflected in decision-making sequences, dialogues with allies or antagonists, and moments of introspection, providing depth to a character traditionally defined by action and instinct. Thematically, Furya may continue to explore recurring motifs of light and darkness, predator and prey, and the tension between individual autonomy and communal responsibility. Environmental hazards, alien predators, and rival factions can all serve as external manifestations of these internal themes, reinforcing narrative cohesion while enhancing visual and emotional engagement. The integration of symbolic elements, such as Furyan rituals, ancestral landmarks, or culturally significant artifacts, may provide additional layers of meaning, bridging action-driven sequences with thematic resonance. Finally, the film's implications for the broader Riddick franchise are substantial. By expanding the narrative scope to include Furyan heritage, interstellar politics, and multi-layered antagonists, Furya establishes a foundation for potential sequels or extended universe stories. Decisions made by Riddick regarding alliances, leadership, and moral judgment could influence future narratives, shaping the trajectory of both the character and the broader universe. The film has the potential to redefine the franchise, blending high-intensity action with thoughtful exploration of identity, legacy, and cosmic consequence. As Riddick's journey through Furya unfolds, the film increasingly engages with the philosophical and existential dimensions of his character, transforming a narrative grounded in survival and action into a meditation on meaning, identity, and mortality. Unlike earlier installments, where the immediate threats of hostile creatures and adversarial forces drove the story, Furya situates Riddick within a broader existential landscape. The near extinction of the Furyans, the weight of prophecy, and the interplay of personal choice and societal expectation compel him to confront profound questions. What does it mean to exist when one's people teeter on the edge of erasure? How does one reconcile individual agency with the weight of destiny? And, ultimately, how does a being defined by violence, survival, and isolation find moral and existential purpose in a world shaped by legacy and loss? This existential inquiry is mirrored in the film's depiction of Furyan society and culture. The surviving population of Furyans embodies a civilization that is simultaneously resilient and fragile, defined by adaptive strategies, cultural memory, and deeply ingrained rituals. Their social structures, though fragmented, reflect sophisticated systems of leadership, moral arbitration, and knowledge preservation. Hierarchies are influenced not only by strength and skill but by wisdom, historical awareness, and the capacity to balance tradition with pragmatism. Rituals, including commemorations, martial training, and rites of passage, serve both practical and symbolic purposes, reinforcing collective cohesion while transmitting moral and cultural values. Riddick's interactions with these structures offer insight into his evolving understanding of leadership and responsibility. He must navigate the tension between his anti-heroic instincts, which favor autonomy and survival, and the ethical demands imposed by his role as a figure of legend and potential savior. Cultural symbolism is woven throughout Furya's narrative and visual design. The planet itself serves as a metaphor for the fragility and resilience of the Furians. Harsh landscapes, extreme climates, and precarious ecosystems reflect both external threats and the internal challenges of adaptation and survival. Ruins of cities and ceremonial sites provide visual testimony to the achievements and trials of the past, reinforcing the stakes of cultural preservation. Symbolic artifacts, such as ancestral weapons, ceremonial garb, and architectural motifs, function as narrative devices that communicate history, values, and collective memory without relying on exposition. Riddick's engagement with these symbols emphasizes the interconnectedness of identity, heritage, and moral action, underscoring the ways in which the past shapes choices and responsibilities in the present. The existential stakes are amplified by the film's exploration of prophecy and destiny. Prophecy in Furya is neither deterministic nor entirely abstract, it is portrayed as a dynamic framework that interacts with Riddick's choices and the cultural expectations of the Furians. The tension between foretold outcomes and autonomous action drives both narrative suspense and philosophical inquiry. Riddick is confronted with the moral and practical implications of prophecy, whether to fulfill expectations literally, reinterpret them according to circumstance, or reject them in favor of autonomous decision-making. This tension underscores the film's broader themes of agency, responsibility, and the negotiation between individual and collective destiny. Speculative analysis of narrative outcomes suggests that the climax of Furya may serve as both resolution and ethical crucible. Confrontations with external antagonists, environmental hazards, and internal socio-political divisions among the Furians are likely to converge, forcing Riddick to integrate his combat skills, strategic acumen, and ethical reasoning simultaneously. Success in these sequences may not be measured solely by physical triumph but by the restoration of societal cohesion, the preservation of cultural memory, and the affirmation of moral responsibility. Conversely, failure, or partial failure, could have long-term consequences for the Furyan people, reinforcing the fragility of civilization and the weight of individual choice within collective survival. This convergence of action, philosophy, and morality exemplifies the film's narrative ambition, creating a story in which spectacle and introspection are inseparably linked. Furya also engages with the theme of intergenerational knowledge and mentorship. Younger Furians, who have grown up in a fractured society, represent the future of the culture and its capacity for renewal. Riddick's interactions with these individuals are transformative. He provides guidance, imparts experiential wisdom, and models ethical and strategic behavior, while simultaneously learning from their perspectives, adaptability, and evolving moral sensibilities. This reciprocal dynamic underscores the film's meditation on legacy, demonstrating how knowledge, skill, and values are transmitted and transformed across generations. By emphasizing the cyclical nature of learning, adaptation, and cultural preservation, Furya situates Riddick's journey within a continuum of survival, growth, and ethical development. The integration of visual storytelling and thematic depth is particularly evident in the design of climactic set pieces. Action sequences are choreographed to emphasize strategy, reflex, and moral judgment as much as physical skill. Environments, ranging from jagged cliffs and volcanic zones to ceremonial ruins and hidden strongholds, are constructed to reflect both narrative stakes and symbolic resonance. Each confrontation, whether with a hostile creature, a rival faction, or a natural hazard, carries layered meaning. It tests Riddick's survival instincts, strategic intelligence, and ethical discernment simultaneously. Cinematography, lighting, and sound design reinforce these layers, ensuring that audiences experience the tension, significance, and emotional resonance of each sequence. The result is an immersive narrative in which action and reflection coalesce seamlessly. Furya's narrative also positions Riddick as a locus of philosophical inquiry within the broader franchise. His anti-heroic instincts, tempered by growing ethical awareness and cultural engagement, allow the audience to explore questions of moral responsibility, autonomy, and the negotiation between individual and collective imperatives. Themes of survival, leadership, and legacy are intertwined with existential questions about identity, memory, and the obligations one bears to one's people and culture. The narrative emphasizes that heroism encompasses more than physical prowess. It requires wisdom, ethical judgment, adaptability, and the capacity to inspire and guide others through adversity. By situating these philosophical concerns within a framework of science fiction action and epic world-building, Furya bridges the gap between spectacle and reflection, providing a narrative that engages both viscerally and intellectually. Finally, Furya consolidates the thematic, narrative, and philosophical strands of the Riddick franchise, offering both resolution and anticipation. It addresses long-standing questions about Riddick's origins, the survival of Furyans, and the fulfillment of prophecy, while simultaneously opening avenues for future exploration, whether through sequels, spin-offs, or transmedia storytelling. The film integrates action, introspection, cultural mythology, and moral inquiry into a cohesive cinematic experience, demonstrating the evolution of the franchise from a survival action narrative into a complex meditation on identity, morality, and legacy. In doing so, Furya reaffirms Riddick's status not merely as a figure of spectacle, but as a character whose journey illuminates universal questions about human and cultural resilience, ethical responsibility, and the enduring significance of memory and heritage. In Riddick, Furya, the character arcs are poised to be more nuanced than in previous installments. Riddick himself is expected to undergo a transformation that extends beyond physical prowess and tactical ingenuity, exploring the psychological and emotional dimensions of a man confronting both personal and collective history. Having survived countless planetary hazards, interstellar conflicts, and moral quandaries, Riddick is defined by experience and pragmatism. However, the return to Furya introduces an entirely new dimension to his arc, the reconciliation of his identity as a Furyan with the reality of being one of the few survivors of his race. This tension, between the independent anti-hero who thrives on instinct and the emerging leader whose actions could define the fate of his people, is central to the narrative. Riddick may face situations where his natural survivalist tendencies conflict with the expectations of other Furyans, forcing him to evolve, compromise, and confront aspects of his morality that were previously dormant or untested. Supporting Furyan characters are likely to provide both narrative contrast and thematic depth. As the remnants of a nearly extinct civilization, these characters may embody different approaches to survival, leadership, and cultural preservation. Some may represent traditional Furyan values, emphasizing honor, collective responsibility, and adherence to cultural codes. Others may have adapted more pragmatically to the harsh realities of Furya's environment, prioritizing survival above all else. The interaction between Riddick and these supporting characters could generate conflict, mentorship, alliances, and betrayal, providing opportunities to explore themes such as loyalty, legacy, and ethical compromise. These dynamics also serve to externalize Riddick's internal struggles, creating a narrative mirror that amplifies his moral and psychological journey. Potential plot twists in Furya are likely to center around the discovery of hidden Furyan factions, secret histories, or concealed threats. For example, Riddick may uncover a group of Furyans who have survived in isolation, possessing knowledge, skills, or technologies previously unknown to him. Alternatively, antagonistic forces may exploit divisions among the Furyans, forcing Riddick to navigate not only external conflict but also internal political intrigue. These twists can serve to challenge audience expectations while maintaining tension and engagement throughout the film. They also reinforce the narrative's thematic focus on discovery, legacy, and the consequences of knowledge and power. Moral dilemmas are expected to play a significant role in shaping both plot and character development. Riddick's decisions may have immediate consequences for survival, but also long-term implications for the survival of the Furyan people. Scenarios may arise in which he must choose between personal gain and communal responsibility, between neutralizing a threat or negotiating a truce, or between saving a small group at the expense of larger strategic goals. Such dilemmas not only deepen the narrative but also offer opportunities for introspection, reflection, and thematic exploration, elevating the franchise from purely action-driven storytelling to a more complex moral and philosophical engagement. Symbolism in action sequences is likely to be utilized to reinforce thematic elements. Combat may not only demonstrate Riddick's physical skill but also act as a metaphor for larger conflicts: predator versus prey, chaos versus order, survival versus morality. Environmental features, such as treacherous cliffs, alien flora, or crumbling ruins, may be used to symbolize the fragility of life, the passage of time, or the weight of history. Even the positioning of characters during combat could carry narrative significance, with Riddick's movements reflecting strategic intelligence, moral choice, or cultural resonance. These symbolic layers enrich the audience experience, allowing action sequences to convey meaning beyond spectacle. Cinematic techniques are expected to play a crucial role in enhancing both narrative and thematic elements. Lighting, a hallmark of the franchise, may continue to highlight contrasts between light and darkness, both literally and metaphorically, emphasizing Riddick's predatory abilities while also reinforcing his moral and psychological complexity. Camera angles, including low-angle shots and close-ups, may emphasize tension, power dynamics, or emotional intensity. Practical effects integrated with CGI are likely to maintain the tactile realism of the franchise, ensuring that environmental hazards, alien creatures, and Furyan technology are visually immersive while also serving the narrative. Sound design and music can further reinforce mood, tension, and thematic resonance, using auditory cues to reflect danger, triumph, or introspection. Universe building in Furya may expand both the visual and narrative scope of the franchise. In addition to exploring Furyan culture and the planet itself, the film may introduce previously unseen locations, technologies, and interstellar phenomena, providing opportunities for future storylines. Riddick's interactions with other factions, planetary inhabitants, or surviving civilizations may establish connections that influence subsequent installments, expanding the franchise into a broader interstellar narrative. By grounding these expansions in character-driven storytelling and thematic cohesion, Furya can strengthen the franchise's mythology while maintaining the qualities that have defined its appeal: survival, ingenuity, and the complex anti-heroism of Riddick himself. Furthermore, fan engagement and speculation are likely to inform the reception and cultural significance of the film. Long-standing fans of the franchise may interpret subtle narrative cues, visual motifs, or character decisions as indications of future plot directions, the resolution of long-standing mysteries, or the introduction of new storylines. The filmmaker's ability to balance audience expectation with narrative surprise and innovation is likely to be critical in maintaining both continuity and freshness within the franchise. By integrating elements that reward attentive viewers while introducing unexpected developments, Furya has the potential to achieve both narrative depth and mass appeal. Riddick, Furya's narrative is likely to expand significantly into interplanetary politics, exploring how other civilizations respond to the potential resurgence of the Furyan people. Across the galaxy, factions and empires with prior history of exploiting or subjugating populations may view Furya's revival as a threat or opportunity. Mercenaries might see economic gain in the planet's resources, interstellar governments may perceive a new military or political power, and surviving Necromonger loyalists could seek revenge or preemptive annihilation. By situating Furya within this larger geopolitical framework, the film adds narrative stakes that extend beyond personal survival or homeworld reclamation. The tension between external pressures and internal cohesion creates layers of conflict that challenge Riddick's instincts, leadership, and ethical decision-making, reinforcing the film's thematic complexity. Long-term Furyan survival strategies are likely to feature prominently. Given that the planet was previously devastated, surviving Furyans may employ adaptive techniques rooted in environmental intelligence, resource management, and tactical concealment. They might maintain a nomadic existence, using knowledge of terrain, predator behavior, and natural hazards to remain hidden from external threats. Alternatively, the narrative could depict efforts to rebuild centralized communities, fortifying settlements with architectural ingenuity reflecting both ancestral tradition and adaptive innovation. Riddick's role may involve consolidating these strategies, balancing tradition with pragmatism, and ensuring that the Furyan legacy is preserved for future generations. These strategies are not just survival mechanisms but narrative devices reflecting the themes of resilience, continuity, and the interplay between heritage and innovation. Predicted alliances and betrayals further heighten tension. Riddick may form temporary alliances with factions or external forces, leveraging his reputation, combat prowess, and strategic insight. However, these partnerships are likely to be fraught with ambiguity, trust may be limited, and betrayal could occur at pivotal narrative moments, forcing improvisation, moral compromise, or tactical brilliance. Such dynamics reinforce the franchise's historical emphasis on moral complexity and survival under uncertainty, making political negotiation as vital as combat skill in shaping narrative outcomes. Alliances may also highlight Riddick's growth from a solitary antihero to a figure capable of leadership and influence, reflecting both character evolution and a broader thematic emphasis on identity and responsibility. Environmental storytelling is expected to continue as a core narrative technique. Each act may integrate planetary hazards, flora, and fauna to reflect mood, theme, and plot progression. Early sequences could utilize harsh deserts or jagged mountains to evoke isolation and challenge, mid-film forests or subterranean networks may emphasize strategy and adaptation, and climactic scenes could take place in culturally or symbolically resonant spaces, such as ceremonial grounds or ruins, amplifying thematic resonance. Environmental elements serve multiple functions. They challenge characters, reinforce world building, and provide visual metaphors for psychological and cultural stakes. Furya's landscape is thus both literal and symbolic, shaping the narrative at every turn. Philosophical implications are likely woven throughout the narrative, reflecting the franchise's growing focus on existential questions, moral choice, and cultural continuity. Riddick's journey explores identity, the tension between the self and heritage, between survival and moral responsibility, and between instinct and strategic deliberation. Decisions he makes, regarding leadership, conflict resolution, and engagement with both allies and adversaries, may be morally ambiguous, challenging audiences to consider the complexities of justice, loyalty, and the preservation of culture. These philosophical threads elevate the film from a high-octane action narrative to a story that engages with profound questions of existence, legacy, and ethical responsibility, consistent with the franchise's evolution toward mythic storytelling. Scene construction is likely to maximize both spectacle and symbolic depth. For instance, a pivotal encounter with a rival Furyan faction could occur atop a windswept plateau, visually reinforcing the precariousness of alliances and the weight of cultural memory. A confrontation with external invaders might take place within a canyon network filled with bioluminescent flora, simultaneously providing tactical challenges, visual spectacle, and symbolic illumination, suggesting revelation, insight, or moral clarity. Such sequences integrate narrative, environment, and thematic resonance, ensuring that every action serves multiple storytelling functions. Character interactions will further explore ethical and philosophical tension. Riddick's exchanges with allies may involve mentorship, negotiation, or subtle persuasion, emphasizing his evolution from solitary survivor to strategic leader. Dialogues with antagonists are likely to challenge assumptions, question morality, or force difficult choices. Subtle character moments, gestures, silences, or reactions to environmental hazards, may carry as much narrative weight as combat sequences, maintaining emotional and psychological depth throughout. The climax of Furya is likely to unify multiple narrative threads, personal growth, cultural preservation, external conflict, and environmental challenge, into a final sequence that combines spectacle and symbolic resolution. Riddick may face a culmination of threats, both internal and external, requiring him to synthesize tactical skill, cultural insight, and moral judgment. The resolution may balance victory and cost, highlighting themes of survival, legacy, and the enduring spirit of the Furyan people. By concluding with both narrative closure and thematic resonance, the film maintains continuity with franchise traditions while expanding the scope of storytelling. Extended universe ramifications are considerable. Furya establishes a fully realized homeworld, laying the foundation for prequels, sequels, or spin-offs exploring Furyan history, interstellar politics, and cultural evolution. Potential narrative threads may include the rise of new Furyan leaders, the re-emergence of external threats, or explorations of previously unseen regions of the galaxy. The careful integration of past references, from necromonger conflicts to prior planetary adventures, ensures coherence and rewards long-term fans, while thematic depth attracts new audiences interested in philosophical and cultural storytelling. Ultimately, Riddick, Furya represents a culmination of narrative ambition, environmental storytelling, cultural depth, philosophical exploration, and franchise continuity. By integrating interplanetary politics, survival strategies, alliances and betrayals, ecological complexity, and symbolic climaxes, the film delivers a layered experience that resonates on multiple levels. Riddick's journey is not merely one of physical survival but of moral and cultural engagement, leadership, and identity affirmation. The combination of immersive environments, speculative species, reconstructed dialogue, thematic motifs, and narrative complexity ensures that Furya achieves a milestone in science fiction cinema, blending visceral action, mythic resonance, and philosophical inquiry. In doing so, the film not only resolves long-standing franchise questions but establishes a foundation for future storytelling, demonstrating the enduring appeal of Riddick as a character and the broader significance of the Furyan legacy. Audiences are invited to witness not only thrilling interstellar adventure but also the exploration of what it means to survive, lead, and preserve a nearly extinct culture, a story that is simultaneously epic, intimate, and timeless. Furya thus stands as a defining chapter in the Riddick saga, a multidimensional narrative that combines spectacle, myth, and philosophical depth into a cohesive and compelling cinematic experience.